And welcome back. It's been a minute, but it is time for the book of the month for November. And I chose this book here, Bloody Genius. Now, I think it's part of a series, but I'm finding out these books you can read without reading in a series. They can read like standalone books. Okay, so for all my new subscribers who haven't been here before, I read a book on this channel every other month. So that'll be 6 books a year on camera. And then I read 6 books or more off camera. And when I'm reading a book, if there's any trigger or warning, I will let you know in the title of the video that there's a warning. And if there are some words that I don't know how to pronounce, don't know the definition of it, I will put those in the video on screen at the time that I'm struggling with it. And then at the end of me reading the chapter, there will be a definition video. The definition video will consist of the words that I didn't know or was struggling with. Okay, and if there are any triggers, I would also let you know that as well. And that's about all I do. Okay, so let's get with this book. This book has 27 chapters. I did read chapter 1 as an option, but I'm going to read it again here. It was copyrighted in 2019, so not too many years ago. So with all of that being said, let's get started. You ready? Bartholomew Quill led his companion through the murk and up the library stairs towards his personal study corral. Though Quill was normally restrained to the point of rigor mortis, she could hear him breathing, quick breaths, excited. They'd been there before, and the woman found the experience both weird and interesting. She was a step behind him and lower, and she reached out and stroked his thigh. But at the top of the stairs, Quill put a hand pressing it back against her chest and whispered, "Shh, there's a light." The library was never entirely dark, not even in the middle of the night. But there never before been a moving light. She could see one now, no brighter than an iPhone, dancing like a ghost through the bookshelves. Not a security guard. It was an iPhone, she thought, not the flashlight, but the much weaker screen light. Quill moved away from her and closer to the light. He was wearing gray dress slacks, a gray knit dress shirt, and a black sport coat, so he was basically invisible in the dark. The woman felt a chill crawl up her arms as she stepped sideways into the book stacks. She learned well the lesson of trusting her instincts about trouble. She turned a corner on one of the stacks and crouched, listening in the silence. Then Quill's voice, hey, where'd you get? I'm calling the police. You stay right where you're at." Then a wet whack, and after a second, another whack. The sound was heavy and violent, as if delivered with a crowbar. The whacks were followed by a couple of bumps, and not another word from Quill. The woman crouched herself up, made herself smaller, opened her mouth wide to silence her breathing, a trick she learned in another life while taking singing lessons. Like Quill, she dressed in dark clothing. As their entry into the library was unauthorized and possibly illegal, before this moment, that had added another thrill to their clandestine meetings. Now, something terrible had happened, she thought. After the whacks and subsequent bumps, there was a deep silence, as though the iPhone user was listening. That was followed by shuffling noise, more bumps, a door closed, and a lock turned. And then the weak iPhone light reappeared. She never saw the person with the phone, but kept her arms over her face and her head down. Faces shine in the dark, and eyes are attracted to eyes. She heard light footsteps fading away, risked a look up, and saw the iPhone light disappearing around the corner towards the stairs. The killer was just as stunned. Quill had come out of nowhere. As the killer stood by the open corral door, laptop in hand, Quill's face had been twisted with anger. He shouted, "Hey, hey, and something else. Then, I'm calling the police. Quill turned away, and without thinking, panicking, the killer had lifted the laptop computer and brought it down on Quill's head. After the first blow, Quill had said, "Ugh," and gone down, and his forehead had hit the edge of the corral desk, and his head had turned. His gray eyes jerked to the assailant, but had already begun to dim. As he sank to his hands and knees, the killer swung the notebook again, and this time, Quill went flat on the floor. The DreamBook Power P87 made an excellent weapon, not because of its Intel Xeon i7 processor, or its 64 gigs of RAMs, or its high-definition display, but because it weighed more than 12 pounds and had sharp corners. By comparison, the Irwin II's fiberglass-handled general-purpose claw hammer, an otherwise excellent weapon, weighs only 16 ounces a pound. When the killer sank the computer into the back of Quill's head, the professor smacked the desk with his forehead. His head turned and his eyes twisted towards his assailant, and he dropped to his hands and knees like an ox. If oxen have hands and knees. A blow followed, a downward chop like that of a galantine blade. The later autopsy suggested the first blow had been sufficient enough to kill if the assailant had been willing to wait a minute. He hadn't. The second impact certainly finished the job, and Quill lay sprawled across the floor and partially under the corral desk, leaking both blood and I know the word, but I'll put it on the screen. Fluid. Quill never felt much pain, only an awareness of the blows and his beginning to fall. The lights went out, and he dropped into a darkness deeper than any sleep. The library corral had been his own personal cubbyhole, renewed semester by semester over the years. Strictly speaking, that shouldn't have been the case, but Quill was rich and handsome and famous for his research into innovative therapies for spinal nerve injuries. So he got by with it, and it had become a go-to place for his late-night sexual assassinations away from all eyes. The killer had 1,000 thoughts raging through his head. Near the top, however, was "get out" and DNA and fingerprints. The library was nearly silent, broken only by the vague clicks and hums of any building at night with heaters and fans. The killer stood listening, then looked down at the body, licked his lips once, thinking. The laptop came with a soft plastic cover. He used it to wrap one of his hands and then dragged Quill's leg from the doorway into the corral where, with the door closed, the body couldn't be easily seen through the narrow, translucent window. His heart was pumping hard. He was breathing like a steam engine. He tried to calm himself, took a moment, stepped on something. The fob of Quill's BMW lay on the floor where he dropped it along with his cell phone. The killer picked up the cell, the keys, and the murder weapon, took another moment to listen. As expected, the library was empty and dead silent. It closed at 6 o'clock, and he murdered Quill at the stroke of midnight. The killer left the corral at 3 minutes after midnight, pulled his black ball cap further down over his eyes, and tilted his head down to defeat any cameras. He locked the corral door and started toward the stairs. The hair on the back of his neck suddenly bristled, like from a chill you get walking past a cemetery. He stopped. Was he alone? He listened, heard nothing. He walked slowly and quietly down the stairs to the first floor, creeping through it on his soft-soled running shoes and out the door. The river was right there. He went to the walkway running alongside it, stopped under a light to separate the professor's keys from their fob, and threw the fob in the river. The keys went in his pocket. He might find a use for them. He continued across a bridge to the other side, saw no one. He stopped to put the computer and its soft cover in his backpack. The cell phone went into emission darkness, Faraday bag with a see-through window, along with his own. Quill had begun making a call to 911 when he was killed, so the killer had access to the phone's operation and could keep it working with the occasional poke. Back inside the library, Quill's companion waited, frozen in place, for what seemed like hours, maybe 10 minutes. After the iPhone light disappeared, she had not heard another thing. Taking a chance, she dug silently in her purse and found the switchblade she purchased in Iowa, where they were legal, as personal protection. She wrapped the knife in the tail of her jacket and pushed a button that popped open the razor-sharp 4 7/8 inch serrated blade, the mechanical unlatching muffled by the cloth. She listened for another moment, then crawled down the aisles between the book stacks, got to her knees, then to her feet, and slipped over to the corral. The door had a small vertical slit window, but with translucent glass. She muttered, "Shit," and waited, listening. Tried the door, but it was locked. She turned on her iPhone's flashlight and directed it down through the window, but couldn't see anything at all through the cloudy pane. Nothing was moving inside. Quill, she thought, might be dead. He was probably badly hurt at the least. She could call the police, but she wasn't the type. The thought held her for a moment. She didn't owe Quill. He brought her into this. If he was still alive and survived, she could tell him that she ran away and never knew that he'd been hurt. The decision made, she turned off the light and slipped through the library, her lips moving in a prayer that wasn't a prayer because she didn't know any, but simply a please, 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 addressed to any guy who might be tuned in. She made it down the stairs and out into the river air, the Mississippi curling away beneath the bridge with anything but innocence. It had seen more murders than any single man or woman ever would. A half-black block from the library, the woman folded the knife but kept it in her hand, her thumb on the spring release. On the far side of the bridge, she was swallowed up by the night. Because he was murdered on a Friday night and had no firm appointments over the weekend and missed only one day at the lab, Quill's body wasn't found until Tuesday, when an untoward odor began leaking under the corral's locked door. Definitely not coffee. Inquiries were made. A second key was found. The door was open. The cops were called. Quill had lived alone since his third wife moved out. Neither of his first two wives nor his estranged third made any secret of the fact that they thoroughly disliked him. A 2-week investigation produced baffled cops. The cops didn't think they were baffled, not yet anyway, but the Star Tribune and local television stations agreed that they were. And who do you believe, the cops or the mainstream media? When no suspects had been produced after 2 weeks, Quill's well-connected sister co-heir to their father's wildly successful company, Quill Micro Sprockets, called her old friend and a major political donee, the governor of Minnesota. The governor called the commissioner of the Department of Public Safety. The commissioner called the director of the Bureau of Criminal Apprehension. The BCA director called one of his supervisory agents. The supervisory agent, after a comprehensive course of vulgarity, obscenity, and profanity, made a call of his own. At the end of the daisy chain was of flowers. That's the end of chapter 1. What I gotta say is, what she mean she not that type to call 911? Is it because she was sneaking in with him to do what they was getting ready to do? And then she wouldn't want to explain? I don't know. If I was in that situation, I think I would call. And I'll just be like, yeah, we was about to do this. But so far, there's somebody who killed him and 3 possible suspects. But then the person that was with him, yeah, no, we'll leave that to the book, get a little bit deeper into it, right? Okay, so there were two words one word that I don't know how to pronounce and don't know the definition of it, and I didn't even say it. It came when I was trying to, when it said the ox. It was a word in front of the ox, but I'll put it on the screen and do a definition video. And then there was another word that I didn't know how to pronounce, but I think I know the meaning of it. But I'm still include it in the definition video. So stay tuned for the definition video. Okay, I am back with a definition video and some words that I didn't know how to pronounce. So the first word is in reference to the ox, the word that was before ox, and it is spelled Poleaxed. And this is how it's pronounced.
Poleax.
So it's a poleaxed ox. Hit, kill, or knock down with, or as if with a poleaxe. Past tense is the word poleaxed. Okay, so let me go back to that part and see if I can make any sense of it. Okay. I'm coming, y'all. I just got to find, I meant to put a little sticker. Okay, so here we go. It said, when the killer sank the computer into the back of Quill's head, the professor smacked the desk with his forehead. His head turned and his eyes twisted towards his assailant, and he dropped to his hands and knees like a
Poleax.
Ox, if oxen have hands and knees. Okay, so that's that one. The next word that I think I had trouble pronouncing, or I did pronounce it, but I don't remember if I said it correctly. So it is spelled Guillotine. And this is how it is pronounced. Come on.
Guillotine.
I think I said guillotine. So it is a noun, a machine with a heavy blade sliding vertically in grooves used for beheading people. Okay. And in that sentence, it was a blow followed a downward chop like that of a
guillotine
blade. Okay. And the last one, I know that I don't know if I said it right, but I think I know what it is, but I'm just going to do it so it's a pronunciation, okay? And it is Cerebrospina. I think I said cerebrospinal. I don't know, but this is how it is pronounced.
Cerebrospinal.
Cerebrospinal. I don't think I said that. And in the sentence, it says, the second impact certainly finished the job, and Quill lay sprawled across the floor and partially under a corral desk, leaking both blood and
cerebrospinal
fluid. Okay, so that's the end of the definition video. And like I said, I shall see you in chapter 2. Bye for now.